What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for coming back for yet another week. So today is one of those chemical spray days. We're gonna spray an ide, a pesticide, a herbicide called, a professional herbicide called Celsius. And this is for warm season lawns, but not bahia grass. If you're watching this and you have bahia grass, you're gonna use this. We call this image purple top, but I've actually lost the top, so it's purple bottom. I will link to a video on this that shows you how to use it and mix it. And if you have cool season grass, you should still watch this video because you're gonna see me go through a label and read different parts of it and see what I point out and what I look at and why, and then also help you to set your strategy, even though you're gonna use a different weed control. I've actually done videos on store-bought weed control for cool season lawns. I'll link up there in the eye and down in the description for you guys too. But again, I encourage everybody to watch because the whole process here is what's gonna teach you, not necessarily just the chemical. But now for those of you who do have a lawn that's Bermuda, St. Augustine, zoysia, or centipede, this is a professional weed control that now comes in an easy to use pack that makes it great for DIYers like us using hand cans. And that's what I'm gonna walk you through today. Some of the pros and cons. We're gonna look at a little bit of pricing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I've even got notes here that I took because inside of the packet, so this is a single-use packet that can go in 2 gallons or 4 gallons, and we're gonna talk about that here in a minute right there. And we're gonna spray. But you can see I get a nice label. This is all the instructions, all the weeds that are killed, all the rates, how to mix. And I'm gonna go through and show you some of the highlights of this to answer some of the most frequently asked questions. I promise you, if you read this label from cover to cover twice, you will make a better application. You just will, because you'll have knowledge, and that knowledge translates to a proper application in the lawn, because you're gonna learn all these questions that you have, like, well, how long do I have to wait before I can go back on the lawn? How long do I have to wait before it rains? How long do I have to wait before I cut? All of those things are here in the label, and I'm gonna kind of show you some of that process. I spent a good 2 hours yesterday going through this label and then typing out all of my notes, and then also I wrote a blog post that'll give you a lot more detail below. I actually had already written it, I just updated it this year. So there's a blog post below that'll go through all the math and everything for those of you that really want to understand the why behind what I'm talking about here. That blog post will give you all the details you need. Okay, so up until a couple years ago as DIYers, this is all we had access to if you wanted to use Celsius. And I like this because there are no heat restrictions, so you can use this in the summer. Now, I'm in Southwest Florida. It's not even spring yet, it's a few days away. But we're getting up into the 80s right now, and we're gonna start touching the 90s soon, so that's why I'm using this, no heat restrictions. But for most of you watching this around the rest of the country, this is a good summertime weed control for you, but also because it kills a lot of things. The problem with this is you gotta pay $145 for this, and with that, I'll show you the coverage rate on the screen. It covers a lot of ground. So imagine if you're a typical homeowner like me, you got 7,000 square feet, but this covers whatever it is, acreage. You're gonna have this for a lifetime, and it's probably even got an expiration date on it somewhere if I looked close enough. So it's not practical. This is more practical now, in ease of use, much easier to use. Now, what this does is this makes it simple for you, and that's because it's pre-dosed. Instead of you having to get this little measuring cup here, and look at this, can you see the writing on there? You probably can't. Maybe if I put it's so tiny. It's hard to read. The dosage is really low. This is more made for people tank mixing and big skid sprayers, right on the backs of trucks, like you see professionals. They're gonna use a bigger amount. They're gonna weigh it out, which you could weigh it out too, but again, even the dosages are so small, you have to have a pretty sensitive scale. Again, this is easy. This can be used in one of 3 ways. It can be used at what's called the low rate, which is where this one packet can go into 4 gallons of water and cover 4,000 square feet. And when you look here on the label, you'll see they tell you at that rate, that low rate right there, see? 4 gallons covers 4,000 square feet. See that right there? At that rate, here's all the weeds it kills. And now there's a couple of them on there that I actually care about. There's common ragweed on there. And then hairy bittercrest, that's the other one. Oh, look at that right below there, hairy nightshade. That was my nickname in college. Now there's another rate, and that's a second rate. So same packet, you can use the mid rate. So instead of putting it in 4 gallons, you would put this same packet into 2.75 gallons or 2 3/4 gallons, okay? And then it will cover 2,750 square feet. And so you can go here on the label and you can see right there, weeds controlled at 1 packet per 2.7 gallons for 2,750 square feet. And when I go down through here, it's very interesting. It shows green Kalinga right there, but I don't necessarily have ever seen it work on that real well. But what is in here is dollar weed right there. That's a big one for us here in Florida. And again, this is the mid rate where 1 packet goes into 2.75 gallons. And then there's a few more over here as well, including this yellow wood sorrel. Oxalis, that is another big one that you're gonna see over there. But then there is a third rate if you really need to go higher. And this would mainly be used later in the season when weeds are more mature. You could use the high rate, which is this one packet goes into 2 gallons of water and covers 2,000 square feet. And you'll see there, you get another list of weeds that are controlled there. And again, there's like doveweed on there, Florida pusley, but see, those are later. Spurge, those are like later weeds as well. So today we're going to use the mid rate. Now I know when I start getting technical like this and going through the label, I lose some of you, but listen, it's really important to go through this and understand the applications you're making. As a DIYer, or as really as any applicator, you want to know that you did your application mix properly. There's 2 things that matter most: getting the mix right and then getting the application down consistently according to the label. Those are the 2 things that matter most. If you can't get those right, nothing else matters. And so that's why it's important to go through these details and understand everything you're doing and why you chose what you did. Again, I'm choosing that mid rate because I looked at all the weeds controlled. I've got a few controlled at low rate, but then I need a couple more controlled at that mid rate, so I'm going to go with the mid rate on this first application. There's one more consideration here that's important. There is a yearly maximum amount of this product that you're allowed to use. And so if you use the high rate right now going out the gates when the weeds are small and new, when you don't really need it, you're going to blow your load and you're going to run out of product to use for the year. Me, I'm going with the mid rate, so I can actually do 2 applications per year of this product at the mid rate. That's 1 packet into 2.75 gallons of water, covers 2,750 square feet. I can do that twice a year. That's what I'm going with, but some of you others, you might be able to get away with the low rate, and then you can do 4 apps a year. Again, look at the blog post below. Very important to read that to understand, so you make a responsible application and you also choose the correct dosage. Another question people ask is, do I need a surfactant? And on this product, it does allow you to use a surfactant if you need to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you why. All right, y'all, so this always makes for a fun experiment. So what I've got right here is just a bottle of plain water. And when you think about weed control, we're not watering this in, right? We want this to sit on the leaves, and I'm going to use this larger plant so it'll be easier to illustrate. But when you're spraying the weed control, you want that weed control to sit on the leaves, right? So that way it can do its job, and that is to get inside the plant, absorb and kill the plant. We have a surfactant right there that you can buy, or you can actually use just Dawn dish soap, or you can use No Tears baby shampoo. All of those work as surfactants. So what a surfactant does is it makes water wetter, or it makes it basically cover better. So let me show you one of the challenges of water itself. It has to do with surface tension. Check this out. Okay, so you can see I got a leaf right there, and we're just gonna spray it. See, this is just water. So let's just spray that leaf. So look, see how the water is beading up? It doesn't actually have full coverage because it beads up due to surface tension. Now, is this coverage adequate? Yeah, in most cases it is. But what a surfactant will do is increase that coverage by breaking the surface tension of the water. So look there, beat it up. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of Dawn dish soap, but again, you can get official surfactants if you want. And watch, I'm just gonna put a little bit in there, just a little squirt. That mixed around in there good. Clear out the line of the just water. Got to make sure that the surfactant now is all through the line. There it is, I can smell it. Now, watch what happens when I spray. Okay, now, pick some different leaves on a different plant. Here we go. Now look. Obviously you can see the bubbles from the soap, but see how the entire leaf is coated? There's no beading because that surfactant, in this case the Dawn dish soap, is breaking the surface tension of the water. So instead of beading up, it's covering completely. And you can see that entire leaf is all sheened because it's completely covered. Let's go back over here. Back over here to the one that I sprayed with just water. See how the water is all beaded up on there? Now we'll go back over to this one that I sprayed with the surfactant. And you can see, completely covered, completely shiny all the way through. That's what a surfactant does. And that's important because of the way these weed controls work systemically. You want as much coverage as possible so they can get in there. And so that's another important piece of information that I found on the label, not only about the surfactants, but when you spray, you want to spray the weeds until wet. That is literally on the label. And so you can see how a surfactant would help make that water wetter and get you better coverage. And in case I didn't explain it properly, see these products, they work what's called systemically. They get into the plants. In this case, the target is the weed. They get into the weed by absorbing through the leaf tissue, and then they work their way through down into the plant to kill down to the root. So you can imagine how important it is then to get that really good coverage so more of the chemical can absorb into the plant. All right, so remember, I'm spraying the mid rate, which means this one packet goes into 2.75 gallons of water, and I can cover 2,750 square feet. So I'm gonna put about a gallon of water in here first. If you watched my last video I did on fungicides, there's a little bit of that mix left in the bottom of here, and I'm just putting the water right on top of it. People ask, how do you deal with rinsate and stuff like that? I just fill on top of that little bit of leftover. All right, so I've got it, I got a little water in there. Now I've got my packet right here. I'm never good at ripping these, but they cut pretty easy. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the top on real quick. Agitate. We're gonna agitate pretty good here. This is a water dispersible granule, wettable granule, WG, that's what that stands for on the package. So you wanna get that stirred around in there real good. So, good to go. Now, I am gonna add one other thing. Because I've got problems with green Kalinga, and if I haven't told you already, I am gonna be blanket spraying. I'm gonna add in some halo. This is specifically for Kalinga or sedges. That's really all it's for. And this is an add-on, or what we call a spike. So I've got my primary weed control in there, that's Celsius, and I'm gonna spike it with this halo, which is generic Sedgehammer. And this is nice. This also comes in single-use packs too, but I do so much of this, I got this bottle here. So you can see that right there is a scoop. So one scoop of this is in 1 gallon of water, so it goes perfect. So I've got 2.75 there, so I just need 2 3/4 scoops. 1, 2, and there we go. All right, so I got my 2 3/4 scoops in there for the halo, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on, shake that up too. Last thing we need is surfactant. I got my Dawn dish soap, and it's 1 ounce of surfactant. Again, you can buy official surfactant if you want to. And it's the same rate, 1 ounce per gallon. So again, I got 2.75 gallons of spray mix. So I'm gonna go for 2.75 ounces of Dawn dish soap. There we go. This will make your application smell really good. It's enjoyable to spray when it smells good like Dawn dish soap, like you're saving ducks from an oil spill. Just has that ambiance to it. All right, so we got that in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and fill up to the 2.75 gallon line, which isn't really perfect on here, but you just have to eyeball it because there's a 2 gallon and a 3 gallon mark on here, so you can just eyeball it to 2.75, which is 2 3/4. So this is my zoysia. It's in rough shape. The disease has just racked it really bad this year, but still got a lot of work to do over here. It hasn't had any applications yet this year or anything. I've just been leaving it. It's also riddled with St. Augustine from my neighbors. So that's a whole nother story. But it needs to be blanket sprayed because of all the weeds in here, mostly the Kalinga. And then my neighbors over here, I'm taking care of his lawn this year. He has the yellow wood sorrel, or the oxalis, pretty much blanketed all in here everywhere. The good news is these two together are just under 3,000 square feet, so I'm able to blanket spray his lawn with the weed control and my zoysia over there and kill all the weeds. Okay, one other thing, I'm using the red fan tip nozzle because this is gonna give me a smaller droplet size, a finer droplet size, which is gonna help us with our coverage. So the walk speed here is gonna be pretty slow because we're blanket spraying, because I need to spray until the weeds are wet. So I'm basically trying to just put a nice wet coat of this paint across everything because I'm blanket spraying. So you want that finer tip mist tip, and you're gonna walk a little bit slower. This is not the same speed as when you're doing something that's gonna be watered in and you're using the white flood jet. Big difference. This is gonna be a slower walk, finer mist. Next thing I'm gonna do is just clear the line out. And by the way, if you're using the Yard Mastery sprayer, I just have this on the low setting. You don't need a big blast of PSI for this. You just want it consistent. I got a nice powerful pump in here for you. It's just enough to push the product out at a reasonable rate. So I just want to tell you guys, you need to wear your PPE. That's long sleeves, shoes plus socks. And some of this is gonna get on your pants. It's just gonna happen. This is just part of the process. When you're blanket spraying, there's not really a way to keep it from getting on you. And so you'll notice I wear these certain clothes all the time. These are my spray clothes, my spray shoes and my spray pants and my spray shirts. I have a couple of them. And while I'm not trying to get this on me, it's gonna happen. I don't have any wind here today, anything, so I'm not worried about drift, which is another thing to read on the label. See, so right there, the wind just picked up a little bit, so I'm just gonna pause a second. I mean, again, there are wind restrictions on this. I'm well under those, but I can also be smart when we get a little gust and just chill out for a second. But again, you're gonna get some on you. It's just how it is. So whenever I have to wash my spray clothes, I rinse those off outside first with water. Then I do run them through my washing machine, but I run them through separately. I don't put them through with other clothes. So that's just one of the precautions I take and always have. Now, one way to avoid this is to not blanket spray. Just do spot sprays. And you'll probably notice, for those of you that keep up, 99% of the time I show you how to spray weeds, it's spot spraying or zone spraying. I don't blanket spray like this. I only had to do this in the very beginning when I had a lot of weeds. And so that's what integrated pest management is all about, right? Sure, I'm having to use a hard control right now. I'm having to blanket spray. I'm having to blanket the earth with these chemicals. I hate this. I don't like this. But I got to do it now to get rid of all these weeds, then grow the lawn thicker so that it can be my defense and I won't have to use as many chemicals and I can spot spray going forward. I'm hoping that makes sense to you, right? That's integrated pest management in a nutshell. Right now, we have a blanket coating of weeds here, so we have to do this blanket spray. I don't like it, but it's necessary. But if I only have to do this once and then I can get away with spot sprays from now on, I'm good to go. All right, y'all, there you go. There's how you spray Celsius. Now, if you subscribe here in another week or so, I'll do another video and I'll show you how the weeds are progressing and their death and that kind of stuff. One other thing I did want to say here, if you're spot spraying only, which is typically what I did, I actually went and spot sprayed all the rest of my lawn over there. And I used the same rate, the 2.75 gallon rate. But if you're just spot spraying, there really isn't a yearly maximum here. It's only for blanket spray. So just keep that in mind. Because as I mentioned, with the most of my lawn, with the majority of it over there, I handle it with spot sprays. I never have to blanket spray. So just wanted to get that out there. Again, read the label, learn all you can. This is a great weed control for the heat of the summer, for warm season turf, just not bahia. And I'll see you in the lawn.